The 605 members of Canada's so-called Black Battalion, young men who wanted to serve. 100 years ago today, they boarded a ship to sail to England. The war would be their second battle. Their first was on Canadian soil.
Even in spite of the fact that we needed men to go to war, right, that we were still willing to not allow this particular group of folks to go because they were black males.
Among them was Sylvia Paris's father. After years of rejection, they were allowed to form the No. 2 Construction Battalion. They headed into war not with rifles, but with picks and shovels. They were tasked with building trenches, bridges, clearing the way for those who fought on the front lines.
They were putting themselves in the immediate danger. So in that regard, they were a big contribution to the war and what happened in the success of the war.
When they were told it is not your war, it's a white man's war, they were in effect being told this is not your country. You live here, but don't think it is your country.
21 of those young men didn't come home. They didn't die in battle, but of illness, because they weren't given access to the same medicine and health care as white soldiers. Historians say their experience carries relevance today.
They were in effect separated from the rest of the military and the rest of the country by a wall. A wall built of bigotry, a wall built of prejudice, a wall built of irrational fears, a wall built of hatred.
To me, it's a gut feeling. It's part of me.
Retired Air Force Captain George Borden has made it his mission to share their story. He's traveled the country with this quilt made to honor young men who persevered. He believes he was able to have a career because of the Black Battalion.
They came back to the very same thing they left with. They were still not considered full citizens. They were still disrespected. They were not hired or employed.
Tonight, their families and community will gather by the waterfront at Pier 21, a chance to mark a powerful moment in Canadian history. Carolyn Ray, CBC News, Halifax.
All right, so today I'm bringing you Impact Center Foundation. We are actually at their location right now, talking to Pastor Obie, who is telling us more about some of their programs. We obviously going deep about his work in the community. We talk about his youth. We talk so much about different things, including our Black community overall. And of course, really for me, as you know, we are looking for resources. And right here, right now, the Impact Center Foundation has been blessed by receiving funding from the Government of Canada, and also through their own networks and collaboration, they are able to provide resources such as food, where you can come here every Sunday, but also you can find a way to partner with them. So let me speak to some of our community members. I know there are some of us that are actually running programs as we speak. If you're looking for for a place to get food, if you're looking for someone to partner with, if you're looking for somebody that can help you maybe access funding or to partner with, please look up Impact Center Foundation. And this is why we're here today, because I had a conversation with Pastor Obie a few days ago, and I wanted to understand more about not just what they do right now during COVID, but what they do in the community and what they look to do going forward. And really, I was moved, and you will see it in the interview that I had with him, that this pastor, the way he thinks, the way he approaches the community through their work is something different than what we're used to. Now, I don't want to say that there is no other person that's doing this, but looking at some of the challenges that we have in the community, I would say this. We need people like Pastor Obie, we need organizations like Impact Center, and we need more of our people to approach the challenges that we're facing, not just by saying we're going to do this, but simply by doing it. And that's what we're bringing to you today, and really look forward for you to listen and take forward some of this work the way Pastor Obie and his organization has, and so we can build our community and change lives as we do so.
Hello, my name is Obie Ajiman, Director of Impact Center Foundation. It's always such a pleasure to get the opportunity to serve the community, and I'm so excited to announce to you that part of our food share program, we are able to help people that are going through challenges in this difficult time to be here at our address, 175 Rexdale Boulevard, Unit Number 1, every Sunday between the hours of 2:30 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. to come and access some food for their families if the need is there. we recommend that if you need this help, that you go to makingimpact.ca, you sign up, or you can give us a call or text or WhatsApp message at 647-261-2448, or you can email us at impactcenterfoundation@gmail.com. We look forward to serving you. We look forward to being a blessing to you in this difficult hour. It's impact time. God bless you.
All right, Pastor Obie, thank you so much for having us here and for obviously hosting us. And we hope to learn more about the work that you do in the community. But first of all, tell our audience who you are and what you do.
Thank you so much, Kizito, for having me. First of all, I must say that you're doing an amazing job in the community, reaching out to people, unsung heroes, and really highlighting what people do. It's really needed in a time like this when people are plowing and helping the community, but somehow don't get their voices out. So I must commend you for what you are doing. I'm Obie Ajiman, by the way, Senior Pastor of Kingdom Impact Ministries, and I'm a husband of one wife. No,
It's only one, man. You only
just
allowed
one.
Yeah.
No concubines.
Yeah,
I have 5 beautiful children,
Amazing.
and I love Jesus, and I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and yeah, I happen to be the director of Impact Center Foundation.
Amazing. And we want to talk about Impact Center Foundation, definitely, because you're doing a lot of work through that impact. But let's talk about the ministry first. How did you start out as a pastor, and how has it been for you? Obviously, maybe tell us, when did you arrive in Canada?
So I came to Canada in the year 2000. I came.
You know, I came here the same year.
You came here the same year?
Yeah.
My goodness. I guess God had a plan for folks that will make a little, drop a little bit of water in the ocean to come here in 2000.
Yeah, that's
So
amazing.
I had finished secondary school back home in Ghana. My background is Ghanaian, so I went to high school in Ghana, and when I completed high school, I had the opportunity to come here, and when I came here in 2000, I was a different person than the individual you're seeing. I came here, I'm a product of a guy that has listened to a lot of Tupac music, Biggie Small. I grew up in Ghana, however, I was so infatuated with hip hop, and my youthful days, they say that I was a bit radical. So I got here and I started working, and I had a little bit of money, so I could engage in all that lifestyle, like take it to the next level, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit of a snapshot about when I came and how life was for me. I lived around the Gin and Finch area. I got myself in a little bit of trouble here and there.
Now, if you just mentioned that you listen to Tupac, can summarize or surmise as to what that means, living at Gin and Finch?
Yes.
Maybe you got in trouble. We can imagine legal troubles.
You know, the good news is that I never got in legal trouble.
But violence.
But I was a part of a group that, if it wasn't for the grace of God, I could have easily. Had been, you know, there'd been times when we had done stuff where, you know, we're being looked for, but somehow I wasn't, you know, picked up. Like,
how did you escape that world? Obviously, you are leading to how you became a pastor. Please.
Well, you know, I'd gotten myself in trouble. Let me put it this, I had gotten myself in trouble. My mom passed when I was 15 years old. And before my mom passed, I was raised in church. I knew a little bit about God. So I had some foundation, and I had veered off. I think my mom's passing really affected me in a very negative way. I was a brilliant child in school and everything, and my grades, everything started going downhill. And my mom's passing made me believe it. Back then, my mindset was, how can a mother who loves God, who is a worship leader in church, how could God allow my mom to be killed? You know, and you know, back home growing up,
So
when any person that dies, they think it's some witchcraft, somebody that did it, right? So how can a loving God allow my mom to go,
pass on,
right? So, and you know, growing up in Africa, you may be going through mental situations and processing information as a teenager, and the pastors will come and they will talk to my dad, the counselors will come, they will talk to my dad, and we were kind of around, but nobody saw it fit to reach out and
reach out
kind
to
of
you. Yeah.
check to see what's going on with this young man, right? So I guess all that pain and frustration of losing a mother took me a certain direction, and I listening to Pac's music, which was quite revolutionary. I mean, growing up in Africa, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of gravitated towards every bad thing that imaginable.
And this is when you were in Africa.
This was when I was in Africa.
So you
yes.
came to Canada with that mentality.
With that mentality.
Okay.
And when I started working, it was like, now I can finance that now.
Oh, okay.
I remember a story where me and my brother had gone into a store,
Yeah.
and there was this jeans that had a handcuff. Like part of the design of the jeans had
Yes,
a
the
handcuff
actual
to
handcuff,
it.
yeah.
And that was the jeans I gravitated towards and I wanted to buy. And
Yeah.
my brother was incensed. He couldn't imagine that you want to put on an attire that is literally gonna send you to jail, in his words, right? So if that was a snapshot of where my mindset was, I believe you can have a sneak peek. Yeah.
And so how did you then transition? And maybe we're skipping a few years in between. How did you transition to be able to get into ministry and start obviously
as I mentioned, I had gotten myself in trouble, and I remembered the God of my mother at the time when I needed to find myself. I needed, and that awakening came at a time when I had made all kinds of friends and connections that was taking me down a certain road, and I decided that I needed to change. I needed to get off the path that I was on. And I went to church, back to church, and I met this pastor who opened up and started talking to me as a son. At that time, actually, when I came to Canada, I lost my father as well.
Oh, man.
So it was like, okay, now I have no person that I could look up to or who would advise me. I had gotten in trouble with my brother, who was just looking at me, and I was a bunch of trouble. You know, I don't begrudge him because he was more centered. He was more focused on what he wanted to do at the time, and I was this guy who had come to Canada, and I was just all over the place. So, if I may answer your question, it was a time where I had gotten into trouble, and I started looking for God. And I went back to a church. One of my good friends who's in Edmonton, Calgary right now, invited me to his church. I went, and because I wanted to change, I decided to make a commitment.
You were ready to make that next step?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so now, talk about the ministry. What kind of work do you do? And maybe quickly, just because I wanted to understand when maybe the ministry, did you start that or was it already happening?
So,
you know, and then what kind of work do you do?
Yes, sir. So for the ministry, when I discovered myself and I started searching for God and I started going to church, I plugged into different ways to serve the house of God, which is that church that I was going to. So I was a youth leader. I started teaching young children in the church, which kind of gave me the platform to develop myself, to get to know the Word of God, because you cannot teach what you do not know.
Absolutely.
So it kind of placed the demand on me to really study the Word, get to know the Word of God. And so it began from there, and then I veered off a little bit. Then there were a lot of people, you know, prophets. I don't know if you're familiar with a prophet. And that word had been coming many times that God's going to use you, God's going to do it. And I really didn't want to do it. I felt like it was one of those things that was going to not allow me to live the kind of life I wanted to live. Yes, I want to serve God, but I don't want to be a pastor. So finally, there was an incident that happened when I had visited Ghana, which kind of woke me up finally that, you know what, I need to make that decision. I went into isolation to just kind of get myself centered with God. I came back, I enrolled at Tyndale University, college and seminary. So it's like one person traveling Back then, I had a clothing line. I was promoting my clothing line. I was going to the clubs. I had models that were modeling for us. And all of a sudden, you go to Ghana and you're back and you say you're going to Bible school. Like,
everybody,
it really didn't make sense. It's like, what is this guy doing? He must be very confused, right? But at that point, I sensed the call of God. I knew that if I really wanted to change, like I had decided a couple of years back, then I had to embark on that journey. So I enrolled at Tyndale University, started getting training to understand the pastoral, the call of God. And then some churches heard my story. That, you know, this bad boy has now converted, and now he's, you know, so I started getting invitation to go preach in churches for youth programs.
Amazing.
Because, you know, you're young, you have a story, it resonates with a lot of young people. So basically that's how my journey started. I started teaching in churches, preaching in churches for youth conventions and things of that nature. And while I was in school, it was laid on my heart strongly, because there were a few young people that wanted to know the Word of God. And I was very curious to more engage in the Word of God with people as opposed to just teaching it. And that is still with me today. Like, we have our Bible studies on Zoom, and it's a conversation as opposed to me teaching or preaching to the people. So we started that in my living room. I had gotten married fresh, and we used to live down at Jane and Western Road. And my wife and I would invite young people that wanted to know more about Jesus in, and we would open the Bible, and they had questions, and some of the questions I didn't have answers to, I must admit.
Most of them there is no answers to it.
But the good news is that it allowed me to really organically search scriptures.
And also maybe lead to the next thing, which is serve the community, which, like, I think there is, we were talking about this over the phone, there is many levels to serve the community, and I feel like, yes, there is a need for the spiritual service, but there is a much more need for this kind of work that you're doing now, in addition to your spiritual work, which is talking to people, serving people, really being a mentor to these young people, where you could be like a parent to those who don't have a parent, which is obviously, I didn't even know this is what you went through as an individual.
Yes, sir. I think that void informs how I lead. You know, knowing that being a young man that genuinely wanted direction, genuinely wanted to change, genuinely wanted to find my way, but not having anybody there to say, hey, you know what, maybe take this course, or join this program, or join this group. So that has informed how I lead now. So when you come to our church, it's not a church that's counting heads. Like, I'm there. Like, you can see the gentleman that came to do with the volunteer that brought some stuff in. We have a relationship. Like, I have a relationship with everybody in my church, where, you know, you can call me at whatever time, because that's a void that I had. So in my pastoral role, I do my best to not only cater to the spiritual needs of the people. Some people are going through emotional situations. Some people are frustrated with the times we are in with COVID-19. Where is God in the midst of it, right? And you cannot use a one-side approach of just preaching from the pulpit to the people when they want to engage you in a conversation. I've never done too well with that type of relationship where it's, you know, the guy's here and you are there. I always like to, you know, relate with people at a level where, you know, there's a connection. My mentor, Dr. John Maxwell, who is one of the experts in leadership globally, he's taught me that you cannot lead people until you connect with them. So it's been like my way of pastoring. When it comes to Impact Center, what God is doing, some of the doors that has opened, it's just, all of it has to do with the willingness to relate with people, genuinely connect with people, like, collaborate with people.
Be there. Almost like this is the only place you're supposed to be.
Yes, sir. Yes,
absolutely.
sir. Yes, sir. You know, this is my mantra. I believe that if you, as a pastor, as leaders, if we decide that we will give people more than what they give the church, because this is my belief: no man can outgive God. No man. because God gave everything. He gave his son. So if you cannot outgive God, then when you come in the house of God, there has to be something, whether it's spiritual, whether it's, you know, us serving people as part of our food program with something, or just having a pastor who's there for you.
Yeah.
That, you know, if you're going through something, you need a letter written for you, you need something.
Those are important.
Yes, sir.
Important. I think this is where, for me, even talking to you on the phone, the thing that I was really, I would say, like, I don't hear much from most pastors or from most religious leaders anymore, is that communal, like community, you know? We have the spiritual, definitely that's taken care of, or at least you would think it's there.
Needed.
But the community where, you know what, I need my pastor for those kind of stuff.
Yes,
like,
sir.
oh, I need to, I need a letter signed, or I need a mentor, that's something that we really need for our young people,
Yes.
regardless of whether they have parents or not, because some of them don't even have people that speak the language, right?
Yes, sir.
You could be there as a community leader,
Yes, sir.
as in your capacity as a pastor, which obviously you're doing.
Yes, sir.
And I commend you for doing that, because I'm
Thank you.
telling you, we need that. From the last few years that I've been in the community, if there is one thing we lack, is like mentorship, the kind of counseling that you don't need a professional for.
Yes, sir.
You know.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. My question is, what are the kind of members you serve? Obviously, you're from Ghana,
Yes.
but I can see like all of the flags here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, by the grace of God, right from the onset of the ministry, I knew, and a part of why, where I basically served initially, I wasn't a part of, was because I saw God calling us into a more broader sphere of serving his people, where we are able to reach out. So when you come to Kingdom Impact Ministries, you have Caribbeans, Jamaicans, St. Lucians, you have Trinidadians, Ghanaians, Nigerians. We are not necessarily a big church. However, the diversity has always been there from the day one.
Yeah.
You have young people, you have old people, you have
Yeah.
so you have Canadians, you have white people, so you have everybody, and then Latinos do come here. The heart is, you know, when it comes to the kingdom of God, I believe that it must reflect who God is, the diversity of who God is.
And the community too.
And
right?
the community too.
If your community is diverse, then
Yes, sir.
absolutely. No,
Yes,
that's
sir.
amazing, because again, going through this
Maybe you might be the first Rwandan to be coming.
to become into church. I think let's not comment on that, but I would
Yes,
say
sir.
maybe
For sure. Yes, sir.
It's definitely.
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate the work that you do. Let me just
Thank
put it
you.
that way. I
Thank you.
appreciate the work that whether ministers or pastors do. I believe there is a role for each one of us, and for us to have someone like you. And this is maybe my next question.
I think you mentioned something that maybe it might be the next question that you're about to ask.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about why is it that most pastors are not, or not, we don't have too many pastors that are venturing into that space of catering into to the community.
Do you want to get yourself in trouble though? Because I feel like it's gonna get you in trouble by.
You know something. The reality is this. You see, you can only do what you can do, right? Even the spiritual work alone is quite burdensome. Like a pastor having to prepare his sermon, a pastor having to make time to pray for people, a pastor having to make time to think about what is the next step, what is the programs we want to run. Sometimes, and you know, when you're leading a church, the reality is you're leading volunteers, and you know volunteers will only volunteer so much of their time.
It's whenever they can.
Whenever they can. So in as much as sometimes, and I've heard this conversation from so many different angles of why pastors are not stepping into doing more than just catering to the spiritual needs of people. But the thing is, most pastors are over their heads.
Yeah, let me put it this way, because we were having this conversation. For me, it's not the pastor per se.
Yes.
It's the church.
Yes.
Meaning, right now, I don't know how many pastors you have at this church, but most churches have more than multiple pastors.
Right.
And I think a lot of the time, these buildings, and we're talking about it, and I think we agreed, a lot of these buildings are being used for Sunday or whatever day those days the worship happens.
Yeah.
And the rest of the week, Monday to Friday or Saturday, the building's empty, nothing is happening.
Yeah.
And you know there are people in the community that needs that support.
Yeah.
I know you're doing it differently. I know you're using these buildings. Obviously now you're serving the people you have been able to get funded through different programs that the government is providing. So I know you're doing it differently.
Yes, sir.
I guess that was my challenge. How come more pastors are not doing that? How come more churches are not doing this work that we know is needed in the community? The building, because that's what we need. We need building, especially within the black communities. Trust me. I think we are the most spiritual people I've ever met. We are not lacking on spirituality, but we are lacking on finances. We are lacking on education.
And you know the joke is, right, a person like yourself and what you do for the community gives you the eye to ask me this question through the lens of what you see. And then you have a typical Sunday church worshiping religious person that think there's something wrong with me for turning the church into a place where you're doing you're giving resources out. You're instead of feeding the people spiritually, you're giving them food.
And then you go back to the work Jesus did.
So
you go back to
you're preaching to me now, brother.
Absolutely, because that was the work. That was the work. That's what church is. So
and I couldn't agree with you more. But the reality is that pastors have a lot to wrestle with. When the reason why I keep using pastors is that my mentor tells me that everything rises and falls on leadership. People that do come to the church, those are the people that God has given you. You know, how you lead them, how you mentor them, how you train them, how you direct them. I have more people that actually want to do something for the community, that want to come to the church because they realize that, hey, I've been a part of this group for a while, or I love God, but when I go there, I'm getting this one dimension, and I know that there's so much more that I can do for God. I can volunteer, and I've watched people that they might not be your ideal definition of a saint. However, they are the first to tell you, I want to go into the community and serve. I want to do something. You saw the gentleman that came in with the stuff, still going through it, still going through the process of God bringing him to where he needs to be. However, when it comes to service, he was the first to lift his hand and say, Pastor, you know what? I want to go into the community. I want to serve. I want to do something for someone, right? So I believe that it's about getting to understand that the resources are already in the church. They are the people that come every Sunday. There are some of the young people that, because their energies are not being properly channeled, now they're starting to look like they're troublemakers, right?
And I think that's the thing. And we look at, because to me, the word purpose is overused now, but also I don't think people who use it really understand it.
Yes, sir.
I think we just say purpose, follow my purpose, find my purpose, and it just sort of, it's there. But I think if somebody's in the pursuit of their purpose, like the young man that was here, and this is one way to find it, or maybe they know, you know what, this is how I'm going to follow that purpose, then no matter what, they're going to do that. And you're going to, like, what you receive from that service and what the church receives from that service, it's going to be immense. Because one of the things I've noticed when people are on that journey of, like, I'm on my purpose, you get something extra.
Yes, sir.
It's not just the hours. It's
yes,
like the way people serve you.
Yes, sir.
You know, all of that. So I think for me, looking at the work that you're doing, and please also talk about the Impact Center, to me, that's what I see. I think people see you following your purpose, and they also want to figure out, okay, how does Pastor Obie do that? How can I do what he does, but through my own particular path? Maybe, I don't know. What do you think?
Yes, sir. You know, you nailed it. I think for us, what we do at Impact Center really comes from a heart of wanting to serve the community. So we have the church. We've had the church for about 7 years now, and this year when COVID hit, it had us to kind of step back and look at how we've been serving God's people, how we've been serving the community, how we've been operating as a church. Myself as a leader, before COVID, I did a little bit of travel preaching. I've been to Nigeria, Ghana, Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, the list goes on, UK, preaching. Now the borders are shut. right?
You're
So,
yeah.
so preaching to people is part of service to the people.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Now the borders are shut. The church is ordered not to open the church doors. Right?
Yeah.
Are we going to sit here and say, well, the government this? No.
Yeah.
How do we serve God's people, right? So that was the premise on which Impact Center was birthed, where we said, okay, we need to find ways to serve God's people. We need to fill some of the voids in the community. If there is something that our community really needs as minorities, it's resources.
Yeah.
You know, resources are usually allocated. However, somehow we don't end up getting our fair share of what our people need, so that we can come out of.
Yeah, let me help you with that.
Yes,
One
sir.
of the reasons why we're here at the Rwandan Canadian Healing Center through the African Canadian Resource Center is exactly that.
Yes, sir.
There is resources for the Black community in Canada.
Yes, sir.
But the African Canadian community has nowhere close to attaching it.
No.
And I know for you, I believe it's through Impact Center.
Yes.
You are able to access that. We were able to access that. We like to do that. Maybe tell the audience, but also talk about how are you, like, what kind of resources do you have, and how can people access that through Impact Center?
Okay. So currently we have a few programs that we are running. We are putting together a grant for young people. We call it No Youth Left Behind.
Okay.
It's a part of Youth Max, which is a part of a John Maxwell team program for youth, for young people, self-help, people development program. By the way, I'm a certified coach, life coach with the John Maxwell team.
Oh, really?
So that is the hub that we want to use to help young people that really, like, I remember back then when I wanted to find my path, I didn't know where to go. Like, where do you go to get information? Where do you go to have a human resource, a guy like yourself, come to share their story in such a way that is inspiring, that it makes me want to get off whatever I'm into, so that I can pursue the purpose that I sense it's resonating deep down within me, right? So really, what we do at Impact Center is collaborations with other agencies, other churches, other communities, other community groups, marginalized communities, people that are trying to have access to information, have access to human resource. Really, our heart is to be able to help groups to have access. And right now we do have our food share program. We do have quite a bit of resources that we are using. We've served a few community groups already. Rexdale Women's Center, we are part of their initiative. Kipling, it's the Community Reduce and Reuse Program, which is part of the City of Toronto's initiative to recycle food. So we've been supporting them. We go, we give them, you saw the gentleman come in. We have a partnership that allows us to access food from Starbucks and Air Canada. So we've used some of those resources to go into the community, like the Rexdale Women's Center, Youth Without Shelter, some churches like Living Word, Assemblies of God, Prayer Palace, Kingdom Impact Ministries. The list goes on. The idea is that whatever we have is not just for us. We want to make sure that as many community groups, though the pastors that want to do well, but somehow maybe they are not able to access resources, with a little bit of support from them, that we can also provide for them what they need so that they can serve the groups that they're called to. Okay.
And so for people, individuals who come here, you told us that people can come and get the food, they can come and get the package, whatever you have you're offering. But also, and this is also goes for my community, for example, we have a cluster where we got about, right now we actually have about 7 different organizations that are getting funding to provide services. Some of it is going to be to provide food. If they're interested in getting, let's say, to access food from you, because I'm thinking if they're going to buy food anyways, they might as well come to a community member. what should they do to reach out to someone like you?
So the easiest way to plug into our resources, especially our food share program, is Sundays. So we have Sundays between the hours of 2:30 to 5:30. We have our doors open where we have hampers ready with food already prepared, where people can come and pick up. What we do is that we encourage people to call ahead so that we know they're coming, and then what they can come. We know how many members they have in their family, what if the food is culturally appropriate or not, so we can better prepare to cater for them for the Sundays. In the weekdays, should anybody need the help, for sure, what we require is that they let us know, and I'll provide all that information before we go.
And you do have ways for people to order online, or?
Yes. So currently, when you go to makingimpact.ca, you are able to fill a form that with all the information that we will require, so that we can serve you appropriately. And with that, you set up an appointment, and then when you come, there will be somebody here, whether it's in the weekday or weekend. But Sunday for sure,
You're open.
that one between the hours of 2:30 and 5:30, we are here, and we are here to serve God's people.
Amazing. So definitely do give us those information. We'll share that with when we do share this story. My question now, or maybe give us a little bit, Impact Center. Why, because now you're in the ministry, right? Why was it started, and when, and I guess give us a bit of the mission of the actual Impact, the organization.
Our mission is to improve the quality of life of marginalized communities in Canada. And really, when you say that, you're talking about people from low-income backgrounds, you're talking about people of color, you're talking about people that feel marginalized, they feel they don't have a sense of where do I go to get what. So that's what got us started. We began in March of 2020, and by the grace of God, we have our charitable status, which allows us to access a few things for the community.
And that's good, because the one thing we talked about is a lot of our communities, we don't have the capacity to even apply for funding. We talked about how you definitely have all these, one, you have access to resources, but you're offering resources as well. Do you plan on being like a trustee for members, or is that something that, or do you, because the collaboration is amazing, by the way. Let me just tell you, we, even the RCHC, we would love to collaborate with you, part of why we're here. But do you maybe say, you know what, there is other organizations in the community that might not have access. Do you plan to be that angel for them and be a trustee, or is that something maybe down the road that you're not ready to do now?
Part of our objects is to be that hub that really collaborates with other organizations so that we can get things done. If you heard, the more the merrier, and the more we come together and break national lines and tribal lines and all these different groups. At the end of the day, we are one people. Right? So absolutely. I think for us, our heart is to work with organizations that are basically going the same direction we are going, as long as it's going to benefit the community, as long as the focus is for the people, to help the people, to reach the people, and they want to do it with some excellence and competence. Definitely, we are open to work with as many people as possible to help our community.
Amazing. I hope people are listening, because honestly, I know there's a lot of people, we're getting a lot of phone calls. Obviously, we've had a program now for 2 months, more than 2 months. So you could imagine people who reach out to us and they're like, who are the trustee? Who can I reach out to? Oh, I would like to apply. We have resources, some of which we send it. But we also know that the available trustees are overwhelmed with demands, like how many people can they really support.
Right.
So if your organization can step in, obviously also looking at the capacity that you have, we don't want you to like overwhelm yourself. But it would be amazing for a lot of the members.
One of the things that I see with our team and board of directors, and what we talk about is we want to decentralize what we do. So the idea is not for Impact Center to be front and center at everything. As long as we have the right partnerships, we have the right teams to work with, then we're not going to be overwhelmed with trying to do everything by ourselves, right?
As long as there is, you just sort of say, okay, this is what we're going to see, we're going to oversee it, or maybe, I definitely get that. And I think that's why I'm asking about the role of trustee, because I feel like that's where you're not on the day-to-day, but you make sure that everything that is required is done.
Yes, sir.
And then, of course, you being the person that can access the funding, it's one of the things that we've seen looking at the Red Cross, looking at the United Way and the Community Foundation. They get it. For the African community, they get it, which is our people don't have the capacity that they need. And of course, there is a lot of the leadership that needs to take place, which is another, a conversation for another day, but definitely there is a long way for us to be ready for the work that's being done. But obviously, many people doing it from a grassroots level and not having the capacity to access the funding. So I think it will be an amazing thing for your organization to do. But again, within your mission, I think that makes sense, right?
For sure, for sure, yeah.
All right, so now I want to ask you, going forward, with the ministry, with the Impact Center, what does the future look like, whether COVID or not? Because to be honest,
you're making me smile.
I've stopped planning for COVID. I just know it's here. We have to go through it. Looking forward.
COVID-19 or not, we believe that there's a whole lot that can be done in the community. In the Chinese language, there's the word for crisis is the same word for opportunity.
Absolutely.
So in the midst of the crisis, the pandemic, corporations still have to do what they need to do. Community leaders like us need to really look for opportunities to serve the people. So moving forward, I know down the road, we are going to have, currently we rent where we are, and we share with another organization. But looking at where we are going, 2 years from now, the plan is to be able to have a center where we can basically get resources in for guys like yourself, or different organizations that want to serve the community, that are already doing an amazing job serving the community. So in the weekdays, yes, we will come in and we will serve the community. On the weekends, Kingdom Impact Ministries, the church, can still serve the community with the spiritual food that is so desperately needed. That is so needed too.
I mean, I definitely, I think so. We are spiritual beings.
Yes,
so
sir.
we can never deny that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So that's where I see us going, where there's going to be a lot of collaborations, and we do our best so that who we are as a church does not bleed into us not being able to serve everybody, because we believe in inclusion. So whether the person is from whatever religion or whatever background, or no religion, or they may have a certain orientation, it makes no difference to us, because really Jesus loves everybody, right? So in the past, I've seen and I've heard churches say, you know what, we're not able to do X, Y, Z because people look at us as a church. So down the road, when we have that space, it's not going to be a church space. It's going to be Impact Center. So the church happens to use it on a Sunday, but it's Impact Center. It's a community resource center that caters not only to the spiritual needs of the people, but also to the emotional needs, to the financial needs of the people, to the whole man. Yeah. Right. So
and I think, to me, that's why I loved having this interview and talking to you. It's because of that Impact Center component of the church.
Yes, sir.
Because really, trust me, I hope other pastors can look at what you're doing and borrow a page from your book. Because to me, the church has, and I was telling you this, you have the most members of the black community. You have the most members of the African community. And you've got to give them more than the spiritual. Because we are like on the bottom of the barrel right
totem pole.
Yeah.
I can agree with you on that, and I think that for us, this is why we look forward to decentralizing what we're doing. So it's not about Pastor Obie and his church. That's not the idea. The idea is that Impact Center is able to come alongside another church. Like right now, we have a partnership with Prayer Palace. Prayer Palace is right around Finch and Arrow Road, that huge church there. So we have a partnership with them that allows them to serve a vast majority of our community with the capacity they have. They have a walk-in freezer, they have a walk-in fridge, right? So instead of us saying, okay, this is for us, the idea and our mission really is to empower leaders, communities, churches, groups, individuals that want to serve their community. You know, give them the legs so that we can all serve our people together.
Amazing, and what you're doing, and I'm glad that the government has been able to, you know, award the grants that they did. Because the work that you're doing, and this is really maybe where I agree with you, that COVID has been a blessing. For the people that were ready, COVID has been a blessing, and I really hope we continue to do this and really start over, do like a reset and look at the communities, especially the African community, and say, okay, everything we've done wrong, we know how to do it right. Now let's do it. And so having individuals like yourself at the forefront, we are glad. It's a blessing for us, and we look forward to getting more resources from you.
And Kizito, so I must add that you see, we don't have our T's crossed and our I's dotted. It's not like we have everything together. We are still a young organization that is learning and growing.
You're doing things right.
Yes, sir.
And that's the key.
Yes, sir. And the key is collaboration.
Absolutely. So
I know there's a lot I'm going to learn from you. I know there are people you're going to connect me with, or we're going to collaborate so that we can make the vision happen. You know, I like a text in Scripture that says, write the vision and make it plain, so whoever reads it may run. So we're here just sharing the vision of where we're going, and those that are hearing us, there are those that can see themselves running with us, like yourself, that, you know, 5 years down the road, we can all, you have your office space, we all in one space, and we have one voice, which makes us a stronger people.
Absolutely.
You know, I think I watched one of your videos where you were talking about Nkrumah's vision and all of that. Let me stop myself from going into that, because I know we might not finish the conversation once I take you down that road.
But that's what we're looking at, though, because I think for me, and whether it's the organization or the platform that we're developing, we're looking at as yes, as Canadians, first and foremost, but within that experience of Canadians, what do we bring to the table? We should not come to the table as just individuals. What is our values? What we bring as Africans that can actually add to the experience of Canadian? And I think previously, we have just came in and became Canadians and lost our values. And to be honest, my generation and yours, and the younger generations, we're looking at it and saying, no, we have to come as Africans, because the Europeans, the Greeks and the Portuguese, Chinese, the Indians, they don't leave their cultures behind.
Yes, sir.
Only we do that.
Yes, sir.
And it's ridiculous and it's crazy, and we cannot do that. So that's why.
You know, the thing is, like last year, Ghana celebrated the Year of Return, which I happen to be one of the ambassadors, marketing ambassadors for the Year of Return, and I watched countless African Americans and our brothers and sisters in the diaspora trooping to Ghana. So, and the thing is that there is this renaissance happening now, where people really want to identify and go back to their roots. So, the way I look at it, I look beyond Africa. We are one African family, whether the person is in Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago. I've done emancipation service in Trinidad and Tobago. and the people dress nothing like what we are wearing now.
More African than
They're
we
more
do.
African than how we dress here, right?
Absolutely.
So really, it goes beyond where we were born. We come from the same place. We are the same people, and beyond that, you know, helping humanity beyond a race, right? And like you said,
really joining
knowing what we bring to the table, right? But
yeah.
you cannot bring anything until you find yourself. You discover where you're coming from and what your strengths are. And as a people, I think we've always been very organized. If we look at the history of black people.
Of black people, and then go beyond colonization, go beyond slavery, and you find that we have more to offer.
Come on now. Yes, sir.
And honestly, once we get to
and I think that's something the young people need to know. I think that's something that many young people that feel disenfranchised, feel lost, they lost their way, you know, that can only identify blackness with twerking. You know, that's why we do what we do, right? So, yes, we catering to the spiritual needs of people. We cater into the physical needs of people, but at the end of the day, I believe that someday somebody will look at a guy like you, and find hope that, you know what, if Kizito can do it, if an immigrant can come here, start an organization and build it diligently on a daily basis and do it, then I can do it, right?
Absolutely.
And that's bottom line.
And by the way, like, honestly, it's why I do it, because I know compared to most people, I start from the ground. I went through a lot. I suffered through PTSD. I don't know if you know
My
this.
God.
And so if I can achieve anything, nobody should give me an excuse. Unless you have no two legs, then I'm like, okay, maybe I'm better than you. You know what I mean?
Even that, do you know a guy called Nick Vujicic? Nick Vujicic, no legs, no arms, right? And this guy's an inspirational speaker. I'll send you a video of him. I
know him, but
right?
So now I don't know the name.
It's really about the state of the mind of the
mindset,
individual, right? The mindset, right?
Absolutely.
And I think if we culturally we can begin to we can have that culture reset where, you know, we are not just identifying with some of the things that other communities or other groups would like to project on us as who we are. And
we know what we went through.
Yes, sir.
You know, we know we went through colonization. We know we went through slavery. Good. Put that in the book. Okay.
Yes.
But what about the first chapters? Where
Come
are
on.
they, right?
Come on.
Because once you start from that place, honestly, there is nothing you can do.
Come on.
You're defeated already.
Come on.
And anyways, we can talk about this until forever.
We have to do a segment on black future. Because we talk about black history. We got to start talking about black future. It's an initiative
I don't know if you've noticed.
I started this year.
I don't know if you've noticed, but we do have a comic as a part of our series for the AfriCanadian.
You kidding?
Oh yeah, we do have a comic, and what I'm doing within the comic is, and this is why I was even asking we take pictures, is I usually do meet with individuals like yourself, and then from this I create characters and then project what you're telling me the future.
My God.
That's, you know, we're trying to take our leaders to that point.
And you know, that is so necessary, because when you talk about cartoons and comics and stuff like that, you really get into the younger generation and
imagination.
My brother, we need to talk on that. We need to find ways to help get that initiative to get to as many of our people.
Absolutely, we will, and we'll let you know. We will have the first series released shortly. We'll let you know. But like I said, we can talk forever, and we don't have that time. Just maybe let the audience know, where do we go online, your platforms, where do we find you?
So any persons that want to be in touch with us, it's makingimpact.ca is our website. You can send us an email through impactcenterfoundation@gmail.com, or you can call or WhatsApp us at 647 261-2448. WhatsApp is always a great tool to communicate with, because many times you find individuals want to send information, and it's a very straightforward platform. So yeah, and our Facebook is Impact Center Canada. Instagram is Impact Center Canada. So those platforms will have you get as much information or more information from us, and we are accessible. If somebody wants to talk, just
amazing, man.
Yes,
we'll share it, and I'm sure people are gonna reach out to you. And really appreciate your time again, Pastor Obie.
Thank you for having me,
You know, this
Kizito.
is amazing. Keep doing the great work.
Yes, sir.
And we know the future, there is no limit. I'll tell you this. And I think there is the opportunity that's available for individuals like yourself is immense, and just keep going, and hopefully we continue to cover.
Amen.
And we get back to
And if you don't mind, I want to take the opportunity to thank our partners and our volunteers.
Please do.
Those people that really give legs and oxygen to what we do. Without them, we cannot really do a fraction of what we do.
Absolutely.
Our Global Access and Inclusion Foundation, which happens to be in Vancouver, they've been tremendous support to us. They have given us basically tools to work with. They have pointed us to resources. Talk about prayer palace, talk about individuals, members of our church, Kingdom Impact Ministries, those that have volunteered. You saw the young man Mark that goes out on the street giving food to people, picking up food from different organizations to give out. So we want to just take the moment to say thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you to all those, and thank you for highlighting a bit of what we do. We appreciate your comment.
Absolutely. It's our honor, it's our pleasure, and we look forward to seeing more of your work in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.